Hey there, Matthew Baker here. For those of you who don't know, I'm a professional counsellor, and today what I'm going to tell you is the two most unhealthy ways of dealing with anger. I really want to do a whole video on this, as it's when you're not processing negative emotions like anger healthily that you're more prone to developing a mental illness. That is, if you don't process anger healthily, then it can lead to emotional blockages that limit your quality of life and your experience of the world. It can lead to worsened interpersonal relationships. It can actually even lead to increased anger in general through a compound effect. And it can also lead to more negative thinking patterns that can turn into more negative beliefs and start this vicious cycle which brings you down and down and down. So here are the two unhealthy ways of dealing with anger that you really want to avoid, as it can lead to the negative outcomes which I just listed. Now, the first unhealthy strategy is stepping away from it. People often think if they step away from something which is causing them anger, then it'll magically be better when they come back later on, as they would have calmed down a little bit and they can just get on with it. However, this just isn't true. Stepping away from it can be a good strategy just to cope temporarily. So if you step away from it for 5-10 minutes, however long it takes just to refresh yourself and then come back to it to resolve it, that's okay. But if you think just stepping away from it in general will solve that which is causing you angry, solve the situation at hand and so on, then you are definitely wrong. It can actually just make things worse and lead to a compound effect where there's already a scratch there which will develop into something which needs stitches in the future if you just keep leaving it re-exposed without resolving anything. Again, stepping away from it can be a good short-term strategy to cope with the anger, and it can lead to better outcomes in interpersonal conflict, since when you come back to it, you can be more at ease and can maybe have a bit of a more sensible and rational conversation. However, in terms of resolving it, it doesn't just work that if you step away from it, you'll forget about it and things will be peachy when you come back. If anything, it can actually come back twice as hard and make the situation even worse. The second unhealthy way of dealing with anger is to blow off steam. Now, the belief about this is that if you blow off steam and redirect your anger towards something else, you'll get to a point where you've blown off enough steam, there'll be nothing left to blow off, and your anger will be gone and everything's solved. Again, this can be a good coping strategy in the sense of maybe doing physical exercise, and by doing that you get a bit of a release from your anger and it can calm you down a little bit. However, again, if you think you're going to go back into the situation and everything is going to be better, and that now that your anger is gone, everything is solved, that is definitely not the case. This is a good short-term strategy just to get you in a bit of a more clear mindset, but in terms of resolving things, again, it can lead to a compound effect in the future where it creates a cut which will need stitches in the future if you keep leaving it re-exposed, i.e. you don't actually resolve it at all. As well, if you're blowing off steam in a particularly aggressive way, that can make things even worse as well. So if you do boxing, what that encourages in your mind is to direct your anger towards something, and you need to damage something to get it out of your system. So what does that mean if you're in a situation where there's no boxing bag? You may want to destroy the property, you may kick a lamp into a wall, you may even get in a physical altercation with someone. And again, this sort of boxing, physical, aggressive way of blowing off steam can only encourage that and ingrains in your system that you need to direct your anger onto something to get rid of it and resolve the situation, which again is quite a negative thinking pattern to have. So there you have it. Those are the two most unhealthy ways of dealing with anxiety, where again, they may be okay short term as a coping strategy to give you some clear state of mind where you can go back into the situation to resolve it. However, if you think this is the only strategy and that this will actually resolve it, then that's completely wrong. It can make things way worse, and you ultimately need to confront, approach the anger, understand and identify what's actually going on there, resolve it, and then you can actually move through the anger. And again, if you are going to blow off steam, then make sure it isn't in a violent way like boxing, as that just encourages you to direct your anger onto something else, which is very toxic. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.